In 2009, researchers tested a plant extract against human breast cancer cell lines in a laboratory. The extract showed cytotoxic activity. That means it demonstrated the ability to kill or inhibit the cancer cells it was tested against. The plant they used does not have a pharmaceutical name, it does not have a patent, it does not have a wellness brand, a supplement label, or a monthly subscription attached to it. It has a Latin name, Chenopodium album, and it is almost certainly growing within 50 feet of where you are sitting right now. Most people call it a weed, most people spray it, pull it, and throw it in a trash bag without a second thought. Before we go any further, this is not a cancer cure story. It is not a story about replacing treatment, skipping screenings, or ignoring your doctor. That line will never move in this video. This is a story about what gets studied, what gets ignored, and what has been growing quietly outside while the research world looked elsewhere. And once you hear the full picture, the weed beside your driveway is never going to look the same. Before the story continues, one word needs to be understood clearly. Cytotoxic. It sounds dramatic, but it needs to be handled honestly. Cytotoxic means toxic to cells. In cancer research, it means a substance demonstrated the ability to damage or kill cells in a controlled laboratory environment, a petri dish, or cell culture. That is not the same as curing cancer in a human being. A laboratory dish is not a human body. What happens in a cell culture does not automatically translate to what happens inside a living person with a complex immune system, organs, and biology no petri dish can replicate. So why does it matter? Because cytotoxic activity in early laboratory testing is exactly how most cancer research begins. The first question researchers ask is, does this substance do anything to these cells at all? When the answer is yes, the next questions begin. In 2009, when scientists tested Chenopodium album, lamb's quarters, against human breast cancer cell lines, the answer was yes. That does not end the conversation, it starts it. And that starting point for a plant most Americans are actively destroying every single week is what makes this story worth telling. Lamb's quarters is not rare, it is not exotic, it is not hiding in a remote forest. It grows in disturbed soil, garden beds, compost piles, fence lines, driveway edges, and backyard corners across almost every part of North America. It self-seeds aggressively. It requires no planting, no fertilizer, no seed packet. The plant that showed cytotoxic activity against human breast cancer cells in a laboratory is one of the most common, most widely destroyed plants in the American backyard. Americans spend billions annually on herbicides and weed control products specifically designed to eliminate plants like this one. Every garden centre sells products whose entire purpose is to destroy lamb's quarters before it spreads. Which means right now, across millions of American yards, a plant with a documented research record is being treated as an enemy. Not because it is dangerous, because the American lawn decided decades ago that a clean yard mattered more than an understood one. That decision had consequences nobody voted for. The 2009 study did not appear from nowhere. Lamb's quarters belongs to the Chenopodium genus, a plant family with one of the longest continuous relationships with human beings of any group of plants on Earth. Its cousin is quinoa, now sold in every grocery store as an ancient superfood at premium prices. The broader chenopod family fed people across the Andes, India, China, Mexico, and Iron Age Europe long before modern agriculture decided which plants deserved a seed packet and which deserved a herbicide. In 1950, archaeologists recovered a 2,400-year-old body from a Danish bog, preserved so completely that his final meal was still intact. That meal contained a wild chenopod at its centre, not as a curiosity, as ordinary food. This plant family was not discovered by modern wellness culture. It was rediscovered, late, expensively, and partially. Quinoa made it back with a premium price tag. Lamb's quarters, quinoa's wild-free, aggressively growing relative, is still being sprayed behind the garage. The study tested Chenopodium album extract against MCF7 cells, one of the most commonly used breast cancer cell lines in laboratory research. The extract demonstrated cytotoxic activity at specific concentrations. Researchers also identified flavonoids and other phytochemicals, plant compounds that a growing body of research associates with biological activity relevant to cancer cell behavior. This was not fringe science. It was standard early-stage laboratory research applied to a plant the world was busy destroying. So why has almost nobody heard about it? The answer is not a conspiracy. It is economics. Taking a compound from a laboratory dish to an approved treatment costs hundreds of millions of dollars. That investment only makes sense if the compound can be patented, owned and sold exclusively. Lamb's quarters cannot be patented. It grows everywhere. It belongs to no one. So the research sits in the published literature, accessible to anyone with a PubMed account, but it does not move forward the way a patentable compound moves forward. No funding, no trials, no press release. The wellness industry packaged the plants that could be branded: quinoa, kale, spirulina, moringa. The plants that cannot be packaged are left where they are, not because the research disappeared, because the plant cannot be owned. Now the line that matters most in this entire video: the 2009 study showed cytotoxic activity in a laboratory cell culture. That is a real, documented, peer-reviewed result. It does not show that eating lamb's quarters prevents or treats breast cancer. It does not show that consuming the plant as food replicates the concentrated extract used in the study. No dosage, no delivery mechanism, no clinical outcome has been established. What it shows is a signal, early, preliminary, and genuinely interesting. That signal sits on top of a longer record. Lamb's quarters is consistently reported as one of the most nutritionally dense wild greens in the botanical literature, rich in vitamins, minerals, and plant compounds. Traditional systems across India, China, and Europe used it as both food and remedy long before any laboratory existed to explain why. Traditional use does not prove medical claims, but centuries of human observation that a plant does something worth paying attention to is not nothing. The research did not discover lamb's quarters. It began to explain what people had already noticed. This part matters more than anything else in this video. No study, no history, and no nutritional profile justifies eating a plant you have not correctly identified from a location you cannot trust. Look for diamond-shaped leaves with slightly toothed edges. The underside of young leaves carries a pale, powdery white coating called farina that brushes off like dust when rubbed gently. That coating is the most reliable identification marker on the plant. Young plants appear slightly silvery at the growing tips. Mature plants reach several feet tall, with stems streaked in red or purple. You will find it in disturbed soil, garden beds, compost margins, raised bed edges, backyard corners. Never harvest from sprayed lawns, roadsides, chemically treated yards, or anywhere near lawn service activity. The plant absorbs what the soil carries. Harvest young leaves from the top 6 inches of untreated plants before flowering. Once you know what you are looking at, the kitchen part is simple. Young leaves cook like spinach, mild, slightly earthy, tender, in under 2 minutes. Sauté with garlic, olive oil and salt. Add to eggs, soups, beans, tacos or grain bowls. Use anywhere you would use cooked spinach. In India, the same plant family goes into winter flatbreads as ordinary seasonal cooking. In Mexico, quilates are cooked with eggs and chili. In China, similar greens are stir-fried with ginger. Different languages, different kitchens, the same quiet intelligence about a plant that asked for nothing and offered something real. A research team in 2009 tested a plant that millions of Americans destroy every week. The results were interesting enough to publish, not interesting enough to patent, not interesting enough for a press release or a supplement label, but interesting enough to exist in the scientific record quietly, permanently, for anyone willing to look. Lamb's quarters showed cytotoxic activity against human breast cancer cells in a laboratory that is documented and peer-reviewed. It does not mean eating this plant prevents or treats cancer. It means this plant contains compounds science found worth examining seriously, and that plant is growing beside driveways and garden beds across America right now, being sprayed, being pulled, being bagged by people who were never told what they were holding. We did not lose this plant because it failed us. We lost it because a plant that cannot be patented cannot fund the machine that turns research into knowledge. The research exists. The plant exists. The only thing missing was the conversation. Now you have had it. Drop a comment and tell us whether Lamb's quarters is already growing near you. If you have cooked with it, tell us that too. Next week, a plant that 19th century American physicians prescribed for liver and kidney complaints that most people mow over twice a month. It is probably already in your yard. Subscribe so you do not miss it.